with Bharat, who is the CTO and cyber advocate at Learning People. Now, we've just been talking a little bit about the skills gap within cybersecurity. So how did you come to be so interested in that part of the industry?
So, Carla, I think, cybersecurity industry has got a lot of challenges. Obviously, the hackers are getting more sophisticated. A lot of the technology that they use is getting cheaper and easier to operate. And it puts a big challenge on our side to ensure that we are trying to keep pace with that. And I think the fundamental issue is whether we've got skilled people, providing that level of defense and protection. Mm-hmm. And I think we've got a big problem at the moment because we just don't have enough people in the industry.
No, we certainly don't. So what do you think companies can do about that?
Well, I think what it boils down to is, first of all, we have a problem about whether we're attracting enough people. And sometimes, companies often make a sort of requirement to say we want skilled people, but they just aren't enough. And what that does is encourage more poaching, amongst. I think ultimately the answer is, first of all, ensuring that whether people want to work in that organization, so whether you've got the right environment, the right culture, whether people feel that they are able to advance their careers, whether they have the right training. So all of that is more around managing a security function, cybersecurity function. But also, I think, bringing the right people into the industry, and whether we can bring them from non-technical subjects. Also, there are large numbers of people who might have some IT skills, and it's a case of how do we train those into some of the more demanding requirements. But I think also organizations need to look at what it is that they're trying to do. So is the requirement for bringing skilled people in really closely tied to your business needs, your business goals? And often an organization might think that actually they have a need for instance, 3 or 4 people in pen testing or something like that. But that aspect might not be crucial, core to the company. And you might be able to get away with outsourcing that, to a competent organization. So the requirement might not be on you, but someone else, and they might already have that skill base. So it's a multitude of points, issues, and very much, management of that cybersecurity function. And I think managers and CISOs are struggling. Our industry is moving at a rapid pace all the time. There's so much information, and trying to weed through and finding the right thing and making sure that you're aligned to your organizational goals. All of those things are major challenges.
I'm a big fan of training people who have some IT skills or some business skills. I think we do a lot for school leavers and graduates, but I don't see much at the experienced end. Is there anything out there that you've seen that you think offers that?
So I think you're right. I think when you look at some surveys, you find that in one of the ones that I was looking at, ISSA survey, 63% of experienced people felt that they weren't progressing their career sufficiently well. They didn't have the right training in place. And the demands of the job really often meant that they weren't able to do it anyway, but it was often the organization didn't make these things available. One of the things that Learning People are doing is to, so we've had about 15,000 people going through training. Okay. And so there's a lot of data there. And we work with potential employers to understand what it is that they're looking for. And sometimes it's possible to understand what are the kind of skills and aptitudes of an individual. So for instance, a cyber analyst. So a company might say, well, actually, we want him to have these types of aptitudes and competencies. And if you trace back, we can see some of those things when a person is going through the training. So it's possible to line people up as they're newcomers, and then they've got some experience, and then they've been trained to identify what types of people a company might be looking for. Mm-hmm. So by doing that, you're making the process a lot more smarter, a lot more scalable. And so more people can identify the right jobs, and companies can identify people earlier in the cycle, as it were. Mm-hmm. We're also looking at new pools of people. So again, we mentioned that there are people with IT skills, but there might be arts graduates again. But if they have the right competencies and aptitudes, they might be quite good for a security role. They might find that it's a very invigorating career.
And do you find by taking a slightly different approach that's helping with diversity? We talk a lot about not having enough women in the industry, for instance.
So I think the industry realizes that this is an issue, diversity, and the fact that, if you look at just the growth of the industry, at the moment it's something like $150 billion in terms of the whole global cybersecurity industry. It's going to expand to $250 billion in 6 years. So that's like an 80% growth rate over that period of time. Mm-hmm. It's phenomenal. It's almost unheard of amongst other industries. So, having a wide pool, having people with diverse skill sets, having people from diverse cultures is absolutely essential. It's good to see that a lot more women are now part of the cybersecurity industry. There was the RSA conference recently in San Francisco. 49% of the keynote speakers were women.
Yes, they did a good job with that
this
year, didn't they?
So you see that the industry recognizes these things, and we should be still doing more to try and bring more diverse talent into the industry.
So if someone's watching and they're thinking, I'd like to do that, I'd like to take some training, what would you suggest they do? So
having a really good base of some technical skills, some IT skills is essential to that. So there are a number of courses, and we do foundation level courses to try and get them. And then at that point in time, they can make a decision what different types of paths they might want to follow. So, at a very entry level stage, doing a security admin role is fantastic because it gives you an understanding of the various different options that are open to you. And then you could look at something like pen testing. And again, that takes you from a very base level to an intermediate level. So there is a really excellent training available. Learning people do most of it online, so it's very easy to access. They have a focus on ensuring that each student is supported fully, having mentors, having support at each level, trying to understand that once he's finished a piece of work, then there's an exam, and how do we get him ready for that level of exam? What are the practical aspects he can do first before he does that exam? And then once he's done that, get a certificate, line him up to him or her up to the employers who might be looking for that skill set. So there's quite a lot. I think one of the things that organizations do suffer from is once there are people who've done like 4 or 5 years of an analyst role or a pen tester or something like that, it's actually helping them to say, how do we help you advance your career? How do we get you from being a practitioner at the mid-level to a more senior person? How do we make you become an expert? And I think career paths, at that detail level are missing. Again, looking at a survey, I think about 55% of security professionals said we didn't have a career path. It was haphazard. We kind of identified someone doing a particular role and then we applied for that. Mm-hmm. But an organization and a CISO really could do well by identifying and plotting all this and then ensuring that his people are working through those career paths and they feel that they're more the organization is looking after their progress.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's really helpful for people looking at the industry and people who are worried about the sustainability of their teams. So that's really great. Thank you for talking with us.
You're welcome.